I do it for like a version of myself, like, you know, however many years ago, who is kind of like, I don't know if I should do this or like
Yeah.
whatever. As a musician, I always kind of like sometimes envy writers, for example. Because I'm like, what do you have to do but sit down and write something? Which I know like maybe more complicated than that, but I'm like,
no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's really not.
And that's why it's embarrassing.
Yeah. I think about this all the time.
Hi, I'm the little rock at the bottom of your bag, Phoebe.
And I'm Shock,
And welcome to Do You Ever Feel Like?
where we ask the questions that everyone's thinking and no one's answering.
And today on the podcast, we have songwriter, podcaster, singer, note taker, observer, rock collector, I think. We're going to find out. Google Doc crafter, sketcher, painter, Z-maker, world builder. She's a musician. She's a very funny gal. We love her very much. Please welcome to the stage, Olivia Rafferty.
hello. Oh my god, like the longest list of adjectives ever.
Yes. I always love doing that for our guests, but it's like never a hard task to do. Like I'm just doing for like a single scroll on your Substack / and Instagram, and then I'm like, great, perfect. True multi-hyphenate.
It's so funny that like the observer, like that must have come from myself. I was like, that's broad. Like that feels a bit
Yeah.
quite
Also,
broad.
nothing like having your own bio read back to you to be like, is that actually who I am?
It's funny because like I workshopped it with do you know Erin Shretton or Shirton, like an editor and writer on Substack, and
Oh, okay.
so she has a newsletter called I'm just gonna mess this whole thing
Great.
up. Erin it's called Frequent Criers Club. Erin.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
That does sound
So she
familiar.
helped me kind of like workshop my bio and stuff, and we came up with like a little game plan for when I was like getting ready to release this album, like kind of through Substack. And I think it was like, museum haunter, observer, and taker of notes and user of sparkle emojis. Like that's kind of what we came with.
Yeah,
but it's funny
I
when
love it.
someone else says it because you're like, oh,
You're like, wait a
who's she?
second. I know. I did a show maybe like a couple months ago, and they were reading my bio at me, and it's the one that I'd workshopped with Gabrielle from Pretty Decent. I don't know if you've ran into Gabrielle.
maybe not.
Gabrielle Ione Hickman. She's a great gal. Shout out Gabrielle. Everyone take her artist's residency course. It was really good. But it's like very academic sounding, and like because I wanted something very academic sounding, and then I was performing it at an open mic night and they were reading it, and I was like, I sound like a fucking asshole. Like I sound like the most pretentious freak at this like brewery open mic night. Like
Oh my
give me a
God.
break. So I know it's a whole thing. Anyway, thanks so much for being here, Olivia. I really appreciate it. You're in the middle of album launch. How's it going?
It's going good. So for those of you that don't know, I wrote an album about geology is kind of the main thing. I got really into it over the pandemic, like the subject, and wanted to write a bunch of songs about it because that's kind of how I like process things and like want to share them. So I like wrote it over the course of 2022, and I really wanted to basically just like write songs about like geology in the world, which kind of compared them to experiences like we have as people. So it's very not kind of like, this rock is called, you know, like educational.
But also, slay. Like, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. I mean, like if you go on YouTube, there is, oh my God, because I was trying to look for like other examples of people doing it. Someone like changed the lyrics to Party Rock by LMFAO to like Fossil Rocks or something.
Perfect.
Fossil rocks are in the ground tonight. But that is really not what is happening here. So yeah, there's songs about like a lot of it is about like nostalgia and like changing as a person and like developing as a person and like how our lives are like long, just like the life of the planet, and we've like changed a lot as people as the planet's changed itself too. So I came out like on the 7th of March finally, after like a lot of time working on it, and I am doing my doing my promo bits, which is quite funny because I feel like I put so much work into like the pre sort of album drop, and now that the album has come out, I've like suddenly just gotten sick and want to stay in bed. But yeah, things are happening. But it's kind of amazing how like far reaching like the songs have gone, and just like the response to them has been really, really nice so far. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm basking in it, and I have to remember to like, this is the bit where you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Totally. I think it's because I was thinking about this. I think you've done a really good job with the like pre-album run-up stuff, and that it got my attention, right? I guess that's the metric or litmus test on the internet of good job. I paid attention to it enough. But you've been working on this album for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
When did I don't know.
Yeah.
Origin story.
Oh my god. It's like a sad origin story because so during the pandemic I got this like into this mentorship program with like Folk Alliance or something.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, I know it well.
The alliance I run? Yes.
Oh my god. So like, and everyone got paired up with like a mentor and stuff, and I ended up getting paired with like the mentor that like was going to break my spirit apparently. And it was like very tough love this first session we had. And I don't know, I tell the story and everyone goes, whoa, that was a bit harsh, but it kind of actually like spurred me into action, where she kind of basically told me that I'd like, and I wouldn't recommend saying this to anyone, wasted years of your life.
Oh my god.
Like literally. And so I kind of came off that call and like, I was just like tears streaming down my face, obviously after I hung up on the Zoom, and, you know, was sort of like, wow, like I really don't have anything to show for my like interest in music, the fact that I've been writing songs for a long time. I think it was like a confidence thing a lot with me, like just not knowing how and like not feeling confident enough to just like, you know, kind of flop around and try in public and get it wrong, but just do something. And so when we had our second session, she was like, I want you to think of a project that you can do, that you can apply for. There's funding in the UK from the England Arts Council that's called Develop Your Creative Practice, which is basically like funding purely for like a period of development, like not a project but a period of development. And you kind of have to like come at it from an angle. And so she was like, what's your angle going to be? And I was kind of like, wasted time, because I wonder where I got that idea from.
Because someone told me so.
Yeah. So I started reading up like a lot about time, and I started like interviewing like my friends and like people I knew about like periods of their lives where they felt like time wasn't moving, like, and it was quite often because of like maybe like chronic illness or like a physical sudden, like, you know, someone had a stroke, like, you know, this kind of stuff. And then it got really heavy really quickly, and I was like, oh my god, this is so depressing. Like, do I really want to write about like basically people feeling like their lives have been put on hold and that they've wasted time? And then someone recommended me this book called Timefulness by Marcia Bjornerud, which is a geology book basically. It's beautifully written, and it is like a really great entry point. And for me, it was the entry point into learning like about geology. Like, I had obviously done geography at school, but not really like, I didn't kind of take it past the, you know, the point you can drop it, it got dropped, you know. So I was like running around buildings and
okay,
like,
rocks.
Whatever. Yeah, and it was like, I don't know, they kind of skipped over like the whole like tectonic stuff. I feel like geography was mostly about like population and anthropology, like kind of more that sort of stuff at school. But all of a sudden I was like, wow, like this stuff is amazing. You're telling me like, you know, the world is like this old, and like this happened and this happened and this happened, and like all these stories. And there was like a period of time in the Earth's history that some scientists refer to as like the boring billion, because like nothing happened for a billion years. I mean, say nothing happened. It was like very, very like tiny single cellular, but there were like no plants, no like nothing. It was just like water and earth, and that was like it. Or water and rocks, like not even dirt. I don't even know. So like it kind of made me think like like it just kind of gave me this perspective. I was like, you know what, actually, like everything is like gonna be okay, because if like the planet has been like doing the same thing like for billions of years, you know, it just puts like your life into perspective, and also just kind of gives you like, I don't know, it's like a metaphor basically for like looking at your own life and stuff, you know, and knowing that like the life cycle for things is really long, and things are always changing, always changing. And that's the thing I think about the planet. It's like stuff that you think like is just super old and like established like will change. Like the Atlantic Ocean didn't exist. There were like a few other versions of it beforehand, you know, or like the Himalayas were super new, for example. All that kind of stuff you think it's like Mount Everest is going to be here forever. It's like, it's really not. You know, and the only reason that it's like the highest mountain in the world is because it's quite young, and like it hasn't actually had time to be like weathered and eroded down yet. But perhaps like it's going to be not that much of a big deal like in several 100 million years or something.
Yeah. I find like such comfort in that like existential of the world stuff. Like when I feel very, I don't know, my problems are so big and special, and no one's ever felt the way I have ever once before. Very teenage girl kind of feels. I like really love to think about how big the sky is, and like I'm just gonna disappear one day and none of this shit matters. Hey, none of this matters. And like a very like, I find that very relaxing.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny because I lived in Canada for like a year in Toronto, and you got to say Toronto.
Toronto. Jacqueline hasn't caught on with that one. Yeah, she that hard T.
Yeah,
is what my head's gonna explode one day.
But like when I moved over there, I was like, you guys literally have a giant sky. Like it's different here. It's actually really different in the UK.
Yeah.
Because like everything is like so close, the clouds are so low. Like in Canada, my mind was like genuinely blown. I was like, I don't know what it is, but the sky is huge in Canada.
Yeah, I love that.
I've heard friends that live kind of all over say that about visiting like Canada or the States. The similar thing. I think it has something to do with like the building heights too.
Yeah,
and all of that.
Because like in like especially in Toronto, it's like you guys just do 2 stories and it max out pretty much. Yeah. Unless you're like downtown.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. Okay, so we have origin story. What was the like kind of like interest origin story. What was the like there's a word I'm looking for. Inciting. Okay, we have origin story. Inciting incident. I can only think of story structure today. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like take thing I like, take thing I've been like reading about, and like turn it into album or turn it into song or turn it into, because I think what happens, kind of like as I was listening to the album, I was like, I wouldn't call myself a rock lover. However, I was like walking around my apartment and I have like rocks from all of my travels. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this like I think one is a touchstone. There's like, I hate puns. So many puns available here. So many puns available. Yeah.
They'll keep coming.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think they're lazy writing.
Olivia's like, I'm very aware. I wrote an album about.
I've heard rock music a few times. But
yeah, and I'm sure everyone's like, wait till you hear this joke I got for you. Yeah. No, like these like touchstones, like basically what I'm trying to say is, you know, I think specificity breeds universality in like such an interesting way. And it's like a concept album around geology is like, I don't know. I don't think a lot of, I don't know you tell me maybe like what the response has been, but like, I think we know more. We have more touchstones, or I hate that I keep saying that. We have more points of contact with these things that you might not think. Am I making sense right now? I don't know.
I think so. Like, I think for a lot of people, there's like 2 kind of camps. It's like the people who aren't geologists, and then I kind of got adopted into the world of geology as well. And because I got when I basically like decided to do the album, like I'd written the songs over the course of the year, like in 2022, and started a substack to just kind of like be enthusiastic about geology in like my really like dumb brain way, where I was just like, I don't know anything, and like not not good at geology, had like just sat through like a bunch of like lectures on YouTube, really enjoyed myself, liked like researching things and picking stuff out, and would like find these stories that I thought were cool, and then tell them to people on my newsletter, which was like 30 people for like a really, really long time. And I would then kind of try and write a song about it as well, because I thought that would be interesting. And it really wasn't kind of like, I'm going to make an album from that point. And then I think at the beginning of oh my God, so many years has it been going on for?
I know,
like,
and the pandemic has been like, it's been 5 years. Like, that's nuts. Like, lockdowns were 5 years ago. I was thinking about that the other day.
It's crazy.
A kindergarten student.
There you go.
Kindergarten.
That's what I think of when people are like ages or like time. I'm like an age of a person. Anyways.
Oh my God.
And
yeah. Yeah, so in 2023, like I kind of sat down with someone in like who's a musician as well and like is independent, and she was like, "You sound like," because I was like, "What do I do?" I had a bunch of songs which were like regular songs, like about life and love, and then I had some songs which were about like geology, and then I'd also done a project of where I'd done like 100 tiny songs, like a song every day for 100 days during the pandemic. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know which one to do. I want to do all of them. And as I was talking to her, she was like, sounds like you really want to do the geology thing. And I was like, yeah, I do. But I was really like information gathering at that point. And I'd also kind of, oh my God, like I'd like booked a call with this like music industry professional that I found through like TikTok, and I'm just like, I don't know if that was a good idea, because like she was just very kind of like, you know, music industry vibe, and she was like, oh, you've not, you know, she was like, you're not doing enough on TikTok, and I'm like, I don't want to do TikTok, like I love TikTok. TikTok makes me feel like I'm insane. I can't have it on my phone.
Same.
So she was like, you need to do more TikToks, like people don't. And to be fair, like I am now going through a phase of like seriously evaluating my social media, because I'm like, I don't want to look like a woman who's doing music as a hobby. I want to look like a musician, and I do need to kind of switch that up, but like I'm going off on like so many tangents here. She was like, don't do a concept album as your first album, because like how does that introduce you as an artist? Like, and I think it's sort of that thing where it's like, you know, if you're doing your debut, you have to do an album, and it has to like have your face like on the album cover, and it has to be like songs which kind of just like state your thesis as like a musician, and like what do you sing about and stuff, and like, you know, maybe it's not universal enough, like maybe you're putting yourself in a corner too much if you're like, I'm gonna write a bunch of songs about rocks, you know. But and so I was kind of like, okay. And then I don't know, I kind of went away from that, and I spoke to this other woman who said, sounds like you want to do the geology album. And I was like, actually, who is this person with like, I don't know, platinum records like on her wall, like strategist like nailed behind her to like tell me, someone who is never going to play the O2 Arena, like who to be honest doesn't want to play the O2 Arena, but like I want to make music that I want to make, and I want people to listen to that music and pay me so I can make more music. Like that is like the goal. Like why do I have to listen to like her opinion? I'm not trying to get played like on like Radio 1 hottest new like Gen Z child singing about anxiety. Like it just doesn't. I hate that shit. I do.
I think, we come across that a lot, right? With like artists that we work with, Phoebe, where it's like, we're like, do you even want to be the person that you're getting this advice from? Like, do you even want to live the life that they're living? Do you want to be in the industry? Like, because I think, you know, there's like that whole online confusion, like darkness of like, where do I go? Which can be, so I love that you went for like what you just wanted to do. You know, what you were
and I
obsessed
think also
with.
like it sustains your interest in the project. Like if it takes a really long time, which this did, it means that like I'm interested in it rather than like just dropping off. Like I think if I just went the route of like releasing like a bunch of just like regular songs that I'd written, I was finding it hard to try and like make them come together and make them mean something, rather than just like here are my feelings that I've been feeling, you know. And it's kind of like, I think I also realized like after like basically like establishing myself like in a long-term relationship. Like I don't like writing about relationship stuff too much because I'm kind of like, that's my shit, you know? Like I would rather write about something
puts you in a, I feel like that weirdly puts you in a smaller box than lady who writes about geology.
Yeah. And honestly, I wonder how people do it. Like, you know, I really do wonder how people do it. Like how Beyonce does it. You know, for example, like Taylor Swift, I can understand because she has changed, like really, and you see like this trajectory and you're kind of like, everyone's along for the ride. But like people like Beyonce or like, I don't know, I think Adele went through a divorce or something, but I just don't understand how people can turn up like every 2 years with like a whole bunch of new things to say about love.
Some
like,
fucking guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, also that's what I think is funny. I'm like, great, this is what you get if you're a woman and an artist in a relationship with a man. To talk about some fucking guy. Anyway, that's my own stuff. I do think it's funny though, like this like pressure, because I feel it sometimes too, this like pressure of industry standard. It's like, okay, well, I want to do this thing, so here's the path that's laid out in front of me. And I have found just in like my own personal consumption of any kind of media, which I don't even like. Ooh, I don't like that I just used that word. But anyway, I feel very bored by status quo right now, because I feel like you open up your phone, whether it's like Instagram or TikTok, I think especially social media, but even if I'm like looking for new music, I've been like trying to find, I read a stat a bit ago that like all of the music that you listen to, like after the age of like 32 or 33 or something like that, like you don't listen to a lot more new music. And I was like, yeah, I've just been listening to the same Killers album since so 2005. Funny. Like that 110% tracks for me. So like I'm trying to find new music and I feel like everything looks and sounds the same. Because we're like, okay, here's the template, here's the cut and paste of it. And I'm like, well, that's boring.
Yeah.
Like that's just not interesting to me. Some gal who wants new music, you know, let alone I making those things.
Yeah.
Too.
I feel like pop music is like, God help me pronouncing this, the Uberus. Wait. What?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The snake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can't say
I know what you're talking about. What that word is.
The Oribus?
Yeah. It's definitely not the Uberubus. But so it is like we're getting to this point.
This is amazing. It can be. For the sake of this discussion.
It's the Uberubus. So
yeah. I don't even know how to Google what I'm trying to Google right now.
It's like Ouboros.
Ouroboros. Ouroboros.
We were all wrong.
Borealis.
3 women, one mind.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
One snake. So because of like interpolation as well in songs, you know, where it's like, I think the first time I really noticed it was like Camila Cabello's No Crying in the Club, where she like takes Genie in the bottle, like the and I was like, holy shit, like people can do this. Like you can literally just lift one part of a song from another song. And I mean, like, you know, obviously we've had sampling for like a really like long time now. And we've also had people like just lifting entire, like This Night by Billy Joel is like a oh my god, I think it's like a Mozart piece or something.
Yeah, it's like oh god, my piano teacher's gonna yell at me. But there's like, it's like Britney Spears, like Elton John, like, you know, all these like pop songs are all whatever.
Yeah, like
anyway,
some of it's like, you know, lifted from classical music and stuff. But now it's like we're getting to the point where like the loop is getting smaller and smaller. Like the time between the original song having come out and the new song, like it doesn't feel like that much time has passed now. We've got like Baby Rexha, which is the most ridiculous name, and David Guetta doing like a version of like I'm Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die by Eiffel 65, you know, and it's obviously like introducing this music to the new generation, which I'm like, first of all, crazy that you guys don't have that song because it's an amazing song.
Yeah.
Second of all, like listen to the just go listen to the original song. Like this, you're not improving it. Like what's there to be improved upon? But it's getting to the point. It's like same with fashion and trends and stuff where it's like, you know, you have kids who are like literally born in the 2000s dressing like adults did in the 2000s. And it's like, that just feels like it's going to get smaller and smaller. Like people are now already nostalgic for like the 2010s. And I'm like, don't take me back there, you know.
Do not cite the ancient text to me. I was there when they were written.
I was wearing the owl necklace, okay?
I was like, yesterday.
Yeah. I know. My girlfriend and I were just talking in the car, like the mustache on the finger thing. You're like, fuck.
No. Like, they can't be bringing this back because it feels illegal, you know?
Yeah.
But like the time is getting shorter between the original culture and then the interpolation or the remix or
Well, what I think stands out with your work, and I want to talk about Substack in a moment as well, and also just your general world building. What I think is really exciting about the things that you're creating is, and what I feel like stands out, like I was just listening to Doechie's new song Anxiety. Have either of you listened to that yet?
Not that one,
at all.
no.
It's the track from Somebody I Used to Know, that she's like, which is like, I feel like a song like deeply ingrained into my frontal lobe. And I was just thinking about it. I was like, how does somebody even riff on something that I feel has got such a deep groove, but like she's interrupting every single pattern in that song by playing around with it enough. And that's what's exciting and new. That's what's exciting and new about Doechie. And that's what I think, like anything that I feel, I'm like, oh my God, this is an interruption of a pattern. Like fun, like that, like that's what gets your attention.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this advice of formula is so like visually tiring. That's the only thing. But yeah, can we talk about Substack?
Yes.
So I know you mentioned already, you were like writing about geology on your Substack. What was the intention there, if or at all, of like, okay, was it like, I'm gonna write a Substack and then, you know, in 2 years when my album is ready, or however long this timeline is, like, then I will use this for great promotion, blah blah blah. What was like that?
It's like, it's always this like history questions where it's like, what were the factors leading up to the Second World War? I think Cody Cook Parrott was the first person I saw using Substack for a long time. And I kind of knew that as a musician, I was like, I go through like cycles of being like really sick of like Instagram and stuff, and then like being like totally posting way too much. And I think I was probably in one of those cycles where I was like, I don't really want to like spend so much time on social media. I feel like I'm not reaching like enough people. Actually, maybe not reaching enough people, because like back then, like Substack kind of felt more like direct to your audience. Like there wasn't notes. This was like 2022. There wasn't notes. There was like office hours, which was like insane. Like it was just like office hours was crazy.
Oh my God, I fully forgot about that.
Whereas like they would just be
crazy.
Like, hey everyone, do you want to just talk? And then people would come like into the comments and be like, I don't understand how to use this feature. And then someone would be like, you should read my blog. Like it was just like
I fully forgot about Substack. Oh, that is very funny.
Yes. But I basically just like started writing it because I wanted I basically just want to create a space for myself to like try stuff out and like kind of like speak right through my ideas with these songs. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna write an album. I wasn't gonna like thinking I'm gonna promote this on Substack, like because you know I literally like all I did to promote it was I sent an email to like everyone I knew who wouldn't hate getting an email from me. And I was like, I started a newsletter, and then I posted about it on Instagram quite a bit when I first started, and that was it. And I had like 39 people subbed to me for like maybe like a year. Like it was a really long time of like having no one. And then so then I kind of like demoed songs and like put up like the little recordings of them and would write about stuff, and like would just kind of treat it as like my sort of playground for like ideas and stuff. And it wasn't polished like at all. And I just kind of would also share what I'd been listening to and just kind of really like had fun with it. And then when I applied for some funding and got funding from the Geologists Association, which is how I got the geologists on board, and then they kind of shared it and stuff, and then all of a sudden I got like influx of people who were into geology who subscribed to my newsletter. And then when notes came out, it like, I mean, we're not really talking about like how to grow a newsletter, but like this is like the trajectory that kind of went on. And And I'm like nowhere near, like, I think I have like 1,000 people subscribe to me, which was like so amazing. But, you know, there are definitely people on Substack who've grown like a lot faster, but they've been doing things which work a lot better for Substack, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I'm kind of always sort of like experimenting and wanting to like switch things up and try something different, and then taking breaks and then coming back, like, and then having like a structured regimented routine, and then like falling off the wagon, and it's just constantly like, I don't know, but like people are along for the ride, which is good. And I kind of like using it as like that sort of, that kind of space, really.
Yeah. I think you have to kind of let people, what do I want to do? I'm going to say something and then we'll see how we feel about it. I think you're going to have to let people in on the journey now. Yeah. Like, I don't know if we can act like I get kind of frustrated when I hear my friends talk about, like, I wish I just had a patron or something like that. And it's like, yeah, do you? You know, like, do you wish we were artists, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 400 years ago, and you had to like show up to the Lord, and like there was an artist in one countryside town, you know what I mean? Or is it more interesting if we're like
community?
Yeah, and like I don't think it necessarily has to be like sharing our process, or because I also think sometimes it's nice to have like things a little bit secret, like in the back pocket or whatever. But I do think like artists, I don't know if it's like our job, but I do think that there's like a certain I'll speak for myself. I think there's a certain responsibility in like demystifying the process. Like, I'm not a genius. I'm not like God's gift. I'm not like going into a field and like communing with something or someone. I'm like just showing up and I'm trying. And I think that's like, I don't know. I think of the like Beyonce's, or I don't know who, like for some reason David Bowie's last album always sticks out in my head. Because it just like, did it come out after he died?
No, it came out before? Like literally a few days before. Yeah.
Like, and it was like dropped, gone, and like quite literally he pieced out, right?
The ultimate mic drop.
Yeah. But like, we don't all have the luxury of doing that. So like, you got to show up for the thing that you want. You know what I mean? That's why I know that like might be like a tough truth for people, but anyway, I think that's something I really enjoy about your process is like, I just see you trying, and I think that is important.
Yeah, and I think like what I do is like I do it for like a version of myself, like, you know, however many years ago, who is kind of like, I don't know if I should do this, or like because, you know, just to like, it is about, I think so much of like, I don't know, like as a musician I always kind of like sometimes envy writers, for example. Because I'm like, what do you have to do but sit down and write something? Which I know, like, maybe more complicated than that. But I'm like,
no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's really not.
And that's why it's embarrassing.
Yeah. I think about this all the time. I'm so glad we're going. Yes. Yeah.
But like for me, it's, you know, like with music especially, it's like it kind of involves, like, unless you're like, you know, just really good at what you do, like a savant, or like amazing with skill, it's like you need other people involved in the process. Like you may be able to sing and write songs, you know,
right? Yeah.
Can you also play an instrument, you know, to go along with that? Are you good at arranging songs and producing and like actually knowing like how to make a song like sound good apart from just the bare bones of it? Do you know how to like build that up and like kind of, you know, create like something really like pleasing to the ear and engaging? Do you know how to actually record properly and like mic placement and stuff? And like, do you know how to use an interface? Do you know how to use like a digital audio workstation? Beyond that, do you know how to mix things so it doesn't sound like crap, you know, and sounds like really far away? Oh my god, when I first started making music, like I had this condenser microphone that I bought off Amazon. It was like a USB condenser, and the whole time I used it, I didn't realize that I was getting the input wrong, and and it was recording from like the second input, which is like the side facing away.
Yeah.
And I was always like, why does it always sound? And like, so I would record this music. This was like, I was like 19, and like everything was like panned really hard to the right and was really quiet. And I was like, I don't understand. It must be really bad. And then, oh my God, the moment I found that out, and I don't know why it took me so long to Google it, but when I did, it was like, wow, night and day.
But like we were saying this just before we started recording, the shit that you need to, like, I don't love that I have these skills. Yeah. Like whether it's like a mic setup or like, there was something a bit ago with like our domain was doing something weird. And I'm like, great. This task took me all of 5 minutes, but wow, required 110% of my brain just to be like, okay, I'm not a web person, but I am today when you're an artist in the 21st century trying to like just make your thing, right?
Yeah, totally. And like, there's just so many. It is true, I think, now as well. It's like all the things you feel like are difficult as a musician must be the same for a lot of artists who are now coming, have to be like their own business owners, their own accountants, God forbid. Like I am not good at that. And like their own marketers, like PR team, like all this kind of crazy stuff. And it does feel like for musicians, there's like a way longer list, or you bring people in. Right. And you are scared to bring people in because, first of all, you're like, are they even gonna like what I do, you know, like, or are they gonna like listen to something I made and go, not for me? And like that has definitely happened to me in the past, you know. I think like me being the one that someone says not for me, you know, like by probably like getting ghosted by a producer or something, but you know, like at a time where like my stuff probably wasn't that great, you know. And then also it's like you bring people in, but then you have to pay them. Yeah. Because you're surrounded by, like, you know, I went to a music college in London. It's like you meet musicians who are professional musicians, and eventually everyone kind of starts growing out of the phase where they just want to do stuff to like get exposure and help people out. And then you need friends, like real life friends who just like love the thing you're doing and want to do it with you, or you need money. And it is hard when you feel like you don't have the friends and connections and you don't have the money. That's like what stops you, and you kind of need to like put yourself in a position, like, it's better to start with the friends thing because that's easier, I feel. Like, find people who are really passionate about what you do. And I think this comes back to like the newsletter. Like, I think what I'm really good at is communicating my vision so much and like so enthusiastically that other people are like, oh, I want to get involved in this. And that's a really important skill, I think, to have as an artist. Like, be so excited and like convinced by your own shit that like people can't help but be drawn in and want to be a part of whatever it is you're making.
Yeah. I love that.
I think the thing that I find so exciting, I mean, the world building of your work is awesome. I'm a theater gal so like I love a world that we play inside, right? I think what is so cool is exactly that. Like the community of geologists, like the people that are showing up to the art, because I think we can get so like industry, like we were saying, like vacuum, even art. Like it's like art is only in the music industry or in the, you know, performing arts or in the gallery or in the wherever, but it's like,
we're like jaded about it too.
But it's like art is in science and art is in sociology and art is in it's everywhere, and you can find the people that are going to support the thing you're making, even if the container is in art, that love this particular thing that you're talking about, whether that's psychology, science, like whatever it is. And I think about that often with like, you know, like obvious, like within the art industries of like, you know, you're writing and you're also creating music, and like, what are those different skills coming together to like make a project happen? But also like, you know, how can we learn from literally different interests and different genres and different things in the world? And how can all of those things support artists? You know, does Olivia go and do a geology lecture and like that's supporting an artist? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like that actually is like how our world, it's not even like should be. It literally is that way. But I think artists kind of like, we like are told to focus in on a thing, and then we're like missing all of the other opportunity or all of the other pathways that are around it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, this like, it instantly makes me think of like my experience in music college where it was like you would be making music and play music with musicians, and then you would do like your end of term show and play 2 musicians. Everyone's playing fucking Stevie Wonder, and it's driving me crazy, you know. And it's like Steely Dan, all this like super noodly stuff, which musicians like love to play. I mean, I love Steely Dan, so I'm not complaining, but the Stevie Wonder like had to end at some point. And it's like musicians playing 2 musicians, and then I start like, you know, playing gigs and stuff, and I invite my musician friends to my gigs, and I go to my musician, and it's just like.
Yeah, it's so insular. It's so funny. I was like, when I was in university, I don't know, 10 years ago, that was a long time ago, I went to an art school, and like the word, what the fuck is it? Liminal had just hit you like art school had just hit downtown Toronto, and I was over it at the time, and then like the internet got it, and it's like it can be so like insular, and like we're all like, I remember at the time being like, oh yeah, like this concept so great, like and no one's ever heard of it before, and we're all so special here together in this like little building in the sky. Like I just, it can be, which is really nice, and I feel really grateful for the experience of having to like gone to art school and like being with other artists all day. Amazing, fun, cool, and also get over yourselves. And I think that can be like it's like what's the word? It's like it can be a little bit of a shock, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think like so, oh my god, like stuff is flying out of my brain as well. But the thing I actually did want to bring up as well was I did the Geological Society had a conference last year in September, which was about art and geology. So that was like amazing, because that really was like the merging of like not 2 worlds, but like multiple worlds, where we had like, we were all in the Geological Society building, like in London. And it's like beautiful, like it's beautiful on the inside, like new library. That sounds so like even just the Geology Society. I'm like, cinematic, great, sign me up. I would
they have a big massive wooden door, and it's so funny because like years ago I posted like a picture outside it and like put it on Instagram with the caption, "Let me in." And that was like in 2022, and then I actually got to walk in the building like a few months ago.
They let me in.
They let me in the building. But they had like music, like, so there was a few musicians. There was like maybe like a small handful of musicians. There were writers, there were poets, there were painters, like people who made pigments out of like clay and stones and things. Really amazing artists, and like some people who are kind of almost like performance artists as well. And so it was like everyone got to meet and look at what each other were doing. And I think all of us were kind of like, I'm a little bit crazy for being like so into geology, like, and then all of us sort of turned up and we were like, you guys are all here, like, oh my god.
Like, I'm not that special after all.
But you know, like the people who were just like the straight up scientists, like a lot of them are creative themselves anyway. You know,
a hugely creative endeavor. Oh my gosh.
But like not even just creative in science, but like, you know, Steve Garrett, who was the person that kind of signed me up to speak at that conference, he is a geologist and he works in Antarctica a lot of the time. And he, you know, is also a guitarist. And he did like a little project with like his like guitar, and like it was crazy. It was like guitar music, like electric guitar music, kind of like this sort of like jazzy type thing, but like to do with like Pangea and like Gondwana, like the continent, like tectonic plates, like the supercontinents forming and unforming, and like he had like little like motifs for like the different continents coming together. It was so crazy. So like, you know, and then Ruthie Siddall, who was on the she's a geologist and was also on the panel for the funding body that awarded me. I met her because she gave like a walk around London and pointed out like all of these rocks like in the area of like near Westminster and stuff, and was like, that rock there is actually from China, like this rock is from like North Dakota, like this is from here. Like she's a geologist, but she's also someone who works with pigment and stuff a lot as well. So like these people are like naturally very like, of course they're creative, and to be honest, like geology is an incredibly imaginative subject, because you have to sort of look at stuff and be like, okay, look at that mountain range, look at the way the layers are kind of formed, look how smooth the hills are, that was probably ice and stuff, and then you have to kind of create this picture of what something once looked like in your head.
I had thought about that.
It's like, it is like a really imaginative science, and I think that, you know, like scientists are people who are like really creative people. Like if you're coming up with like new hypotheses and, you know, finding new ways to like communicate ideas and stuff, and no, I mean, it was just amazing, and like everyone was so passionate and like excited about like kind of all being in the same room, and you know, it was just like it really was one of those things where it was like, okay, this is actually the real world, like I'm in the real world right now, you know, and like not in my like phone on a computer, like promoting myself by being like on like a 9:16 video or something in someone's phone. Like this, I was like, oh, this is actually where it matters. Like this is where the money comes from, this is where the performance comes from, this is where the connection comes from. This is like, you need to go out into the real world more, which is hard, I think for some people.
Oh, very hard. Well, hard, and also like, once again, I think our phones have given us this like excuse. Apparently I'm like in a bit of a spicy mood today. But our phones have kind of given this excuse of like, or not excuse, but it certainly makes me feel like, okay, cool, I promoted the thing, I posted about it, like great. But like actually, like when I'm scrolling, I'm not really taking any information in, you know? Like I'm like, beep boop, give me something entertaining to look at. So like while I'm on the toilet / waiting for the bus, not at the same time, waiting on the toilet and waiting for the bus at the same time, not / two separate activities. Anyway, I'm sure someone has been there before, but anyway, I think it like kind of gives us this like illusion of like, I promoted or like I shared my art with the world, and like, yes, you did, but also you have to do that 5 million more times.
You like, I think it is like, you could almost make like a little ratio thing for, it's like for every like one real life interactive experience, you like, that is the equivalent of like 10 online
something
touchstones.
Touchstones.
This is my rock from Australia that's just sitting down here.
There we go. Yeah, and I think it can be a bit of a trick, especially like you're saying too, like the process of making something, like idea to not even finished thing, like idea to on my way to making something, then cool, I've made it. All right, now I have to, you know, and if you're a musician, like sequence an album, find like, you know, put together the thing. Journey from idea to thing is like a whole thing. And then like thing to, I always say like delivering it to the villagers, you know, like bringing it to the people. That's a whole other process. Yeah. And I think we have to like, you know, take care of ourselves on the way, but like be honest with ourselves and like actually do our work justice and not just like, you know, I've been like quite literally harassing people for podcast reviews. So if you're listening, you haven't left a podcast review, you can do that. Go listen to Olivia's album and then you can leave a podcast review. Yeah. But like, you know, I want podcast reviews right now, so I'm gonna be like super annoying, and like the first time it actually clicks, it's really gonna be like the 80th time that they've seen it.
True. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
You're just annoying yourself is kind of the rule. Annoy yourself, and then you feel like you're doing a good job.
Yeah, totally.
Well, we went many places. I wanted to talk about many more things, but time, and also this was nothing in compared to the time of space and earth and rocks and etc.
But a blink of a blink in the eye of the world.
Yeah, a thought of a moment of the rock of the eye, something like that. Olivia, thank you so much. Is there any final words for the people? Where do we go listen?
Yeah.
Without I was just reading your Spotify. Also, we can talk about it later. Maybe we can have a whole other episode about Spotify. We had your Spotify stuff last night.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I will say that one thing you were talking about, like not listening to like new music. Since I have quit Spotify, I feel like I do need to like do an addendum, because like I have just been listening to like Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift like non-stop for months now. Like,
but, hey, that's fine. Also, that's fine.
Yeah.
Your album and like Doechii, and then I was just listening to I don't even know their names yet. This is how new it is. The like Paco Emma. I don't even know if I'm gonna say Paco Amaruso and Kareel.
Okay.
They're Argent. Enjoy. They're like their tiny house just came out a couple of months ago. I convinced myself that it was Lady Gaga in drag for like half a day. The other day, I was like, you can't tell me that isn't Lady Gaga in drag. I was like on Reddit forums like, do we know about this? I think I'm the only one. Anyway, but they're an Argentinian like jazz fusion like hip hop group. So
Amazing.
Those things have made it into the slipstream recently. Anyway, I'm setting you up to promote your album right now.
Instead of Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
It's not even the new one, it's Chromatica. Like all of a sudden I've gone, actually, it's pretty good.
Have you guys heard of this?
Like, me listening to Plastic Doll on the Tube being like a revelation. So you can find me on Spotify, and I will actually be like setting myself up to do like a little kind of ad campaign, I think, and get more streams to Spotify, because the numbers always help, but they don't always pay the bills. So listen and enjoy on Spotify. And if you can, chuck a tenner my way or something on Bandcamp. Go onto Bandcamp and buy the digital version of the CD. And, well, it is the digital version of the CD. And then you can maybe buy the physical version of the CD, but I need to put them up in Bandcamp as well. But I'm sending them out to my Kickstarter people first. Yeah, and then you can find me on Substack. Still kicking about on Substack at oliviarafferty.substack.com. And
Gorgeous.
Also, I have my own podcast, which is funny because I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I have a podcast, you know. Like, don't tell anyone.
And also, I have a podcast. It gets, I think, like, I feel confident now that we've had like a hand. I just recently feel okay. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. I just feel not so embarrassed about saying I have a podcast. However, I was buying microphones in a Farm Boy parking lot yesterday, and he was like, "What are you buying? What are these for?" It was from a Facebook Marketplace. It wasn't just I was like a random man
stand.
a podcast with, Farm Boy organic fresh microphones.
Yeah.
He was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, I guess you can't say dentist when you were like literally buying microphones from a man. So I was like, I have a podcast. And then he wanted to talk about it. So it was embarrassing still then. But anyway.
Yeah. I love the image of you being like a supermarket parking lot buying microphones with this man who's just like standing in the middle of the parking lot with two microphones in his hand.
It's quite literally what happened.
Okay.
It's quite literally what happened.
Great.
But podcast is great. Super fun as well.
Yeah. So it's called Write Me a Song, and it's a podcast about songwriting that I do with my friend Edward Randall. And every week we kind of challenge each other to write a song in a different way. So if people like the creative process, it could also probably be applied to like a lot of different ways of making things. So yeah, we do like lyrical challenges, genre challenges, like all this kind of stuff. Cool. And yeah, it's called Write Me a Song.
I love the I think it's interesting. You're always like challenging yourself to like be flexible. Like the 100, like I was listening to some of the 100 Tiny Songs the other day, and I was like, the genres that you're like traversing are so great. And I think it's fun to like, as an artist, to just be like, let's stay loosey goosey and, and not get so locked into.
Yeah. It was the looseyest of goosey. I kind of want to bring it back. Like part of my plan post album is like bring back the Tiny Songs in some way. So, because it was an amazing exercise, basically just like being stupid and making fun stuff every day.
Yeah. I think I probably write 100 Tiny Songs like every day.
Well, that's what I want to do as well. Like, I want to collect everyone else's Tiny Songs, Yeah. Like the ones they sing to their pets and stuff like that.
Anytime. I'm ready for it. Actually, and I just like, sometimes I impress myself with my little songs that I'm like singing at my dog. I'm like, oh my God, this is genius. The key change, the modulation. Hello.
Yeah, we got to start like a library of like those things, I think.
Yeah. Actually, we should put you in touch with Hillary. We got a friend who's got a really good one. But anyway, I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for listening. All of Olivia's stuff will be in the below area of wherever you're listening to this. Sounds okay. I got to be done with this.
It was very funny. Thank you so much, Olivia. Thanks for coming and chatting with us.
Yes, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Okay, bye.
Bye.